to the John Riggins Show on Masson and WTOP 103.5 HD3 and worldwide at Rigo44.com.
We welcome you,
Nino Brown.
That's Nino Brown?
No, New Jack City. New Jack City. That was.
What's this from? Where did I hear that? Where do they play that all the time?
Oh, The Apprentice.
Oh, that's what it is. Because I was thinking Donald Trump. You're right. It's The Apprentice.
More New Jack City for me.
Anyway, this is the John Riggins Show. Lou Holder, Kevin Stanfield, Todd Castleberry, myself, John Riggins, J.I. Halsell. Who now? You say you write a column under the cap. Is that
under the cap at footballoutsiders.com?
Okay, on footballoutsiders.com. Anyway, J.I.'s here answering a few questions we have about the NFL. Did you have something, Todd? You look like you was getting ready to say something.
No, did not. I was just checking my notes.
Well, let's see. There are some things going on, obviously. I didn't read the article, but Robert Kraft came out, the owner of the New England Patriots, here about a day or two ago, and mentioned that he thought it's quite possible that this thing could be worked out before the end of this football season. What's your comment, Robert Kraft? He knows something that obviously you don't.
I mean, I'm happy to hear something optimistic sounding out of this whole kind of debate regarding the collective bargaining agreement and negotiation, because everything you'd heard up until then was kind of just negative, ominous posturing. You know, the owners are going to get paid off the television deal. The players are going to decertify. Everything you heard around the negotiation was negative, and so to hear a pretty prominent owner, no less, in Robert Kraft, kind of come out and make that statement, painting a little bit brighter of a picture, is optimistic.
Wait a sec. DeMaurice Smith just ringing on the back phone.
I was just getting ready to say, what did D. Smith say?
He says, Riggo, don't go for the double move from Bob Kraft. I can't believe they went this early. Don't bite on the pump fake.
Yeah, I was about to say, DeMaurice Smith is probably going to paint
I wasn't going to bite in anything until I heard DeMaurice talk. I see what the word DeMaurice is, and I go, okay, I got a better feeling for that. Well, one of the things that they brought up, and you heard the commissioner saying it before the season ever started, and he said it with what seemed to be authority and confidence about how the fans are really behind the 18-game season, and I don't necessarily believe that is factually true, and of course the commissioner likes to deal in facts, but I think that was a little bit of a hyperbole on his part. How do you feel about that, and do you have any inside information as to how that part of the not necessarily negotiations, because they really haven't started anything yet, but where that's going to end up?
The thing about the 18-game season, from a casual fan perspective, I can see where the casual fan would love to see, 2 additional regular season games in lieu of 2 preseason games. I get that. But, there are obviously the practical ramifications with players. Players can barely make it through a 16-game season, let alone an 18-game season. But now, financially, and really, let's cut to the chase. At the end of the day, this is about money and revenue, and an 18-game season obviously increases your revenue to the league, to the owners, but people kind of assume that with a 13% in games played, which is what 2 games equals out to, is a 13% increase in games played, you would then give a 13% raise to the players, guaranteed. It's not exactly how it's going to work. Because when you think about the mechanics behind how the salary cap is calculated, it's calculated off of total league revenue. So if you increase the revenues that the league is generating by having 18 games, you're simply, the owners are going to propose that you would then just simply raise the salary cap and raise the salary floor. And that doesn't, just because you raise the cap doesn't mean you have to use all of your cap space and provide that to players. So that is going to probably be the owners' kind of position in, trying to get an 18-game pass, where obviously the players are going to want, an 18% or 13% increase in the minimum salaries paid. So if you're talking about a $320,000 salary for a rookie this year is what their minimum salary is, that's got to be probably closer to $400,000 under the mechanics of an 18-game season. But that's going to be the player perspective. The owners are going to simply want to just raise the cap floor and salary cap itself.
I wanted to ask you about the rookie salaries, and this being maybe the last year of a Bradford or an Ndamukong Suh or whatever getting huge money like that. Is that still on course? That's going to be the last year that you see ridiculous salaries for rookies?
Yeah, poor Jake Locker and Andrew Luck. They probably should have came out this year because instead of Sam Bradford getting $50 million, it could have been one of those guys. And instead, now going forward, maybe the top number 1 pick is getting $25 million guaranteed. I think the challenge is, and I think, practically, it just makes sense for the veteran players who've been in the league for 10 years and they see a guy come from Oklahoma playing college ball and he's getting $50 million guaranteed. It just doesn't seem right. But the challenge is, how do you ensure that guaranteed money that you're taking away from the top first-round picks, how do you ensure that money goes to the veteran players? Because, like I said, when we were having the 18-game discussion, it's one thing to, make sure more money is available to players. It's another thing to force that money to be paid to veteran players. So I think from a union perspective, I think they're in agreement that the guarantees have gotten out of control for first-round picks, particularly in the top 16. But, you need to be able to pass that money on to the veterans, whether that's increased minimum salaries that, like I mentioned earlier, or what have you. But we don't want that money to stay in the owner's pocket.
That's exactly what DeMaurice Smith has said. That he's, and we've had him on where he's talking about
that really well. Then
yeah, he nailed it, J.I., because it's exactly what his word. He said the owners won't guarantee that they'll take that money and give it to the veterans.
Absolutely.
Bottom line, he said that there's no guarantee that would happen.
Absolutely.
But now, have you ever heard of this model for rookies? Then I saw this in the Wall Street Journal.
Auction
model? Yeah. What do you think of that?
I mean,
well, let's explain what it is.
Let's explain it first.
Let's explain it.
Well, as far as I understand, it's not unlike a salary cap in the sense that everybody's has a pool of money. Every team has a pool of money, and you're talking about the class that's coming out of college that would be eligible for a draft.
And really more like an auction in which you bid on whatever player that you need.
Right.
So if you're not in the market for a quarterback, then it's whoever. And if only one team needs, and it's supply and demand based, and it's more free market, if you will.
And to me, if I were a college player, I think it's more to my advantage because now I have various people that are bidding on my particular talents.
You're not locked into the one team.
And once you use up your pool of money, you're done.
That's essentially free agency for rookies is basically what it is.
Yeah,
because
and it's the American way.
When you think about veteran free agency, unrestricted free agents, there were teams bidding for Albert Hainsworth, and there were teams bidding for Julius Peppers. You'd have basically the same concept with rookies with college draft picks or college eligible players. And it's an interesting concept. I don't know practically how it would work. I'm obviously used to kind of the traditional structure, but I think there's some merit to it, though. I mean, it works with veteran free agents.
Think about this. When you take St. Louis last year, they had the #1 pick overall. They selected Sam Bradford. There's a lot of pressure on a terrible, terrible team to get that pick right. And if they don't, they pay buku money, and they're punished for years and years to come because they had to make... They don't have to do that. They can be comfortable and build a team. To me, it's far superior to anything that you have out there right now.
Actually, St. Louis is an interesting example because they had Sam Bradford #1 this year. They had Jason Smith #2 last year, and then they had Chris Long #2 the previous year. So you're talking about in 3 consecutive years, they've had one of the top 2 picks.
Right.
And Jason Smith got $30+ million guaranteed, and Chris Long got 30 or so, or close to $30 million guaranteed, and Sam Bradford got $50 million guaranteed. It's a lot of money that the St. Louis Rams are having to shell out. Not to mention, they've spent a lot of money in that organization.
So it doesn't even pay to be bad.
No, it's
that's
almost like
you can be punished.
You can be punished for being bad.
Well, that's just it. You can be boxed into a situation going after something you don't necessarily need or want.
I don't want the #1 overall pick.
Right, and that
can't trade out of it.
Right, nobody wants it. No one wants it.
Isn't there a way? And actually, J.I., correct me if I'm wrong. One of the dirty little secrets is while there is a salary cap, the floor. These owners, what's the minimum now?
Last year it was close to $90 million was the floor because the Tampa Bay Bucks were right around it.
I don't think most people know that owners are not obligated to spend
to go all the way to
the cap.
And that's the key concept with like the 18-game season or just the salary cap in general. It's basically, let's call it $90 million last year was the salary floor and $130 was the salary cap last year. So you're talking about a $40 million spread there. If you get an 18-game season or you get a rookie scale system, perhaps one way to ensure that the money goes to veteran players is that instead of having that $30 million spread, you only have a $15 million spread.
Tighten it up.
Tighten it up so that way you ensure that the owners have to spend money, on players.
And then obviously you solve a lot of the locker room stuff with guys looking around because you should be taking of the guys that are accomplished, that have been there for you, are representing. It might keep players longer with these teams as well, that I think a lot of fans would like to see, versus guys just taking the money, taking a money grab because that's the only team that would or could afford them at the particular time. Has there been any discussion? I've never heard this, Rigo. Tell me if you have in your conversations with DeMorris for the players in roster expansion versus just getting more dough in general, or is there more talk about that?
Both, I think.
If you're going to go to 18 games, we got to have more players.
You've got to have bigger rosters.
Yeah, that would be part of it, and I would think most of the players would expect their pay to increase as well. So it's going to be a double dip. Players would be making more money, and there would be more players on the roster, would be my understanding of everything.
Sounds good from the player perspective, right?
Yes,
except when they start thinking about those 18 games.
Right.
And just how much that's going to take out of their hide.
Well, you know what? What a great problem to have for a league that is, record growth, health, and everything else. What a great problem to have. Hopefully they're going to get it together. And when we'll continue our conversation with J.I. Halsell, NFL capologist on the John Riggins Show. Let me get your opinion, J.I., on, I don't know if you know this, but some agents have been paying college players.
Really?
Apparently, they've been giving them money and doing other untoward things. I, for one, in Rigo.
I say here. Where were they when I was going to school?
Getting his rent paid in Lawrence, Kansas?
You get the wink.
Everybody but me. And I ain't happy about it.